I think a lot of the times, like people get scared and they use that energy to kind of like, I guess, control themselves and stay where they are. But I think they should use that energy to just fuel the decision that they want to make.
Welcome to the Venture-Ette podcast, where women from all over the world share their stories of travel, moving abroad, and creating a new life for themselves, hoping to inspire you to live out your dreams by showing you how other women did it. I'm your host, Venture-Ette, Ashley. Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I am super excited to have today's guest on the show because she is someone that I find truly inspiring. I was so lucky to meet her in 2015 when we were both living and teaching in Istanbul, Turkey. And what I admire about her is that she has lived in some incredible places and some of the most difficult places in the world, which includes places like China, which we'll definitely dive into later. But she's just always been such a humble and sweet person and one of the funniest people I've ever met while living abroad. So I'm super excited to have her on today and share her story as to why she moved abroad and how she's done it all. So I'm pleased to welcome my friend Sehar.
Hey everyone. Hi Ash. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm so excited to have you. So let's let everyone know. So where are you currently right now? And I know this is not by choice.
Okay, believe it or not, it's not by choice. I'm in Thailand. I am on an island called Koh Lanta, which is about an hour away from Phi Phi. It's beautiful, it's sunny, it's warm, it's paradise, but unfortunately, I'm a little stuck here.
And why is that? Why are you stuck there?
Well, because I live in China and there's a lockdown right now because of the virus and the health situation. So, unfortunately, our flights were canceled and our school has told us not to come back till it's safe.
Well, fair enough. So you're supposed to be there for 2 weeks and you've been there for about how long now?
4.5 weeks now. So, it's kind of like an extended mandatory holiday.
Yeah, which in ways is amazing because you're on a beach and, it's sunny. But then also you said it's a bit of island fever. Is that right?
Yeah, in reality, I mean, it's not something I've planned for, obviously. And there's no routine, there's no structure right now. I don't have my laptop or iPad, so can't get any work done, can't be productive. There's only so many tours you can do or so much sunbathing you can do before you start to go a little bit crazy.
I've never been in that situation, so I'm just wondering, how would that be? But I understand. I mean, everyone in the end does appreciate, having structure, having a schedule. So not being able to do that for an extended period of time, I can understand you would go a little crazy.
It's definitely a first world problem.
Yeah, it is definitely a first world problem. But let's get started way before, Thailand and China. So where are you from originally?
So I was born in Pakistan in a city called Lahore, and I moved to Canada when I was about 10 years old. So I guess I would identify myself as a Canadian, even though a lot of my, I would say, values and morals come from Pakistan.
And do you have any fond memories of growing up in Pakistan?
Not really. I actually had a very rough childhood growing up in Pakistan. So when we did move to Canada, I felt like it was kind of like a weight was lifted off my shoulder. I felt relieved. And with the Pakistani culture, I never fit in. Even as a child, I kind of knew it wasn't the place for me.
Do you feel like you've kind of always felt that way, even in Canada, because you eventually moved abroad?
I think so. I kind of felt like in Canada, like even though the weight of Pakistan was lifted off my shoulder, I felt like it just wasn't quite home. I did feel a little bit lost all the time there. I mean, I'm very grateful for Canada and having a citizenship from that country and getting an education there. I mean, it has provided me with a lot of opportunities, but it's never felt like home.
At the time, what did you feel like was missing for you in Canada?
I just didn't know myself. And that was a big thing. Like, I always knew something was missing. I just never knew what it was. I just thought maybe, the issue was with me in my head rather than anybody else, which I guess it was in a sense, but I'd never been told to explore who I was as a person and what I wanted. And I think that was what was missing.
Okay. So you felt, like you said, you never was told to explore and everything. So what sparked that interest of exploring?
I think a few things. When I was little, my parents, my dad was always traveling for work. And I think I saw that as an escape. And that kind of like triggered my need and my want for traveling. Also, I felt like I really didn't want a normal lifestyle, normal being 9 to 5 job in a cubicle, social outings, brunch dates on Sundays, white picket fence. And that idea really, really used to scare me. So I think I kind of wanted to get away from that.
And what about that life really scared you?
I would say the norm of it. I just found there was no adventure in it. I mean, I know there is, obviously, but it's just so typical. Everything was just so typical, so normal. You're supposed to graduate, you're supposed to get a job, then supposed to put a down payment on the house, lease a car, have 2.5 kids, a dog, and everything is planned out for you. And there's no real surprises. You do have problems and issues, but people have gone through that before. It's just your typical problems. I wanted something completely unexpected.
Okay. So you wanted like different kinds of problems.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's one way to look at it. So you wanted to explore, different kinds of problems. So then what did you decide to do?
Well, I decided to go against everybody's advice and move overseas right after I graduated college.
And so you decided to move overseas, but obviously there's different ways to move overseas. So what was the solution you found in order to move overseas?
Because of my limited savings and obviously my lack of work experience, just being a college student and all, I thought that teaching overseas was the easiest way. And I did found that on my research as well. So I decided to just work abroad, teach overseas. Yeah.
How did you come across like teaching abroad? I know I found it through Googling. Like, did you hear it from Google as well?
I know, right? Google is the answer to all of our problems. Well, actually, like in my first year, I'd seen some random poster about teaching in Korea. And it was my first year in college, and I like didn't pay much attention to the poster, but it was always in the back of my mind. And, when I was preparing for this podcast and thinking about my experience and stuff, and that's when it actually hit me. I was like, oh my God, yes, I saw this poster. That's what sparked it all. And then my last year, I had this idea in the back of my head. And then just like you, I went on Google and I started doing some research and I found a website called JVSL that has a huge extensive job board for China, Korea, other places. I kind of just started researching and started talking to all the recruiters and started setting up interviews.
I've used Dave's ESL cafe, and that's how I found that job in Istanbul that we both eventually did. But you didn't move to Turkey first, though. Where did you move to first?
So my first job was in South Korea. I actually stayed 2 years there. My first year, I worked for a Hagwon, which is a private kindergarten, which is a lot of hours. But I felt like, I had to put in the work. It was my first year. I'm not going to obviously get a cushy job. But again, the experience was great. And then my second year, I worked for an international school.
And so, why did you decide to move to South Korea? Like, I know you ended up having an amazing experience, but what drew you to go from Canada to South Korea?
I don't know what I was thinking. I thought that all of Asia was warm. So I was like, South Korea, yeah, it's going to be tropical. It was not. I landed in the middle of winter, freezing my butt off. Luckily, my mom packed me a jacket. I chose South Korea because I think the culture is so different than anything I've ever known. And I just didn't know anything about it. So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to dive right into the jungle, basically.
And when you got there, was it like a jungle? Like, how did you find living there in the beginning?
Okay, even though I had an amazing experience, it was such a blessing. It was honestly like living in an alternate universe because everybody looks so different than what I was normally used to, even though in Canada I lived in a multicultural city and community. But everybody was super different. They dressed different, they ate different food. So everything was super new to me and super exciting. And people were really excited by me because I looked so different as well. Every day was kind of like an adventure and something new and weird and quirky would happen. So it was great.
Okay, so you got the adventure that you were kind of hoping for. So when you were living there, did you find it kind of difficult or easy to like make friends? Like how was the social scene being like a foreigner living in South Korea?
It was super, super easy. Places like South Korea or China or Thailand, when you are working there, there is a very strong expat community and people are very welcoming. And because you're so far away from home, and I feel like your meetings with people, your first impressions are so different. Like you just put yourself out there 100%. There is no, shyness. Everybody's just completely on their feelings. So it's really, really easy to make friends, and people always want to help because they have been through this, right? They have been the new kid on the block. So they really kind of want to take care of you and tell you all their little secrets and tips and tricks. So I found it very, very easy, and I felt very welcomed by my school, teachers, students, and my coworkers. So it was great.
Oh, it sounds like it was like such a fun experience. And I feel like I got a similar experience as well when I was in Vietnam. Like there was such a strong expat community and they really do become your family.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said you kind of felt like you were kind of like lost growing up and you wanted to kind of find yourself. Did you feel like you were starting to find yourself more when you were in South Korea?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I was having a lot of fun, and I did have to be very aware of putting time aside to think about my wants and needs. Because when you are an expat and you move to these countries, it's just so much fun. There's so much to do, and the parties and the social gatherings. So it's a great escape. But if you do want to work on yourself, which I did, I really had to put time aside to do that. And I really had to work on it, work on finding my wants and needs and who I am as a person, and which was very emotional and mentally exhausting and difficult. But yeah, I got through it.
That's kind of part of this. You do get through it in the end. So you lived in South Korea for 2 years, but then you said you wanted to make a change because you really wanted to grow. So in order to grow, you chose to go to another place. And so where did you decide to move next?
Yeah, again, it was on the whim. I was looking for jobs online and I saw a job for Turkey. It was actually half the income that I was going to be making in South Korea, but I had never thought about living in Turkey. I didn't know anything about it except for the capital, Istanbul. I heard it was beautiful. I had no idea. And one of my sister's friends was Turkish, and I asked her, I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "Istanbul." "Oh, how is it?" "Oh, it's so beautiful." "Okay, I'm going to apply for this job." It was really just kind of like just gambling, basically. And obviously, it doesn't always work out. It worked out in South Korea and in Turkey. As you know, our experience was a little bit different. But again, it was an experience. We can laugh about it now.
Yeah. So I know you were one of the people that did not stay through the whole school year. Because, yes, Turkey was quite difficult for many reasons. The culture was very different, the people were just very different. And then also at the same time, too, we went at probably one of the worst years to go at. It was pretty dangerous with a lot of the terrorist attacks. So ultimately, what was your breaking point to leave Turkey, I guess?
I was living in a house that three other people were supposed to live in, and I was living all alone.
Yes, I remember that. Everyone else had left. Yes.
Yeah, everybody else had left. I mean, you guys came over on the weekends to visit, but you guys were across the city basically. It took you about 2 hours almost to get to my house. And I just think it was the right time because there was a break. I believe it was our winter holiday, and we had like maybe like 2 or 3 weeks off. I can't even remember right now, but that was the right opportunity. I couldn't see myself forcing myself to come back because I remember I'd taken a couple of holidays, and my last holiday was in Amsterdam with our really good friend Lily. And I was in the airport crying in Turkey when we had to come back. I was at immigration crying. I was like, I really don't want to go back to this job and to this place because it was so difficult for all of us. And then the next opportunity I had to leave, I decided not to come back.
Yeah, I remember that time. I remember you were really kind of struggling. So you said you really wanted to grow. So what were you hoping to potentially gain from Turkey, or what did you gain from your few months in Turkey?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I feel like I've learned a lot from Turkey. I did gain a lot of different type of experiences. I mean, not everybody is going to want your best interest, has your best interest at heart, especially like the employers. Not everybody is going to do what they have signed up for. We had a contract, you know this, and a lot of the things that we were promised, we weren't provided. So I learned that just because it says in the contract that you're going to get A, B, and C doesn't mean you're going to get A, B, and C. And I also learned how to deal with that because obviously I was furious and I was so angry. And that is my reaction, or was my reaction right away, that if something wasn't right. And just because something is immoral or not right doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Also, I learned how to deal with those type of difficult times, how to be on my own completely, and how to also ask for help. I did have to ask for a lot of help, and I was a little bit embarrassed about it because in South Korea people just offer it to you and you don't feel embarrassed taking it because it's been offered. But when you're just broken down completely as a person and then you ask for help, you just feel like a lot of your pride is being taken away or your dignity. And that's not the case at all. And yeah, you just grow strong. I grew very strong in Turkey. And I'm really, really grateful for that experience.
I'm grateful for it too. I feel like we all grew much stronger after living in Turkey. But I remember, after Turkey, you were offered an amazing position in one of the most difficult countries I feel like ever to live in. More difficult than Turkey.
It was in China. It was in a tropical island of China, just next to Hong Kong. The province is called Hainan, and I was offered a position in the capital city of Haikou. So I never thought about living on an island in China, which was the thought itself was ridiculous, right? People were like, I don't, you mean Hong Kong? I'm like, no, Hainan. Again, it was such a crazy opportunity. The pictures looked beautiful. I had an interview with one of my managers there. And at the time, the interview went so well. We just had a chat about life, and he just wanted to see if I would fit in into the team. And it just felt right. So, adventure number three.
Adventure number three. And so I remember you were so excited for this job, and then you went there. And then how was the reality of it all, like living on an island in China?
It looked really, really good on paper. And it still does. And I don't want to seem negative or anything like that because I did have such a good time, but it was really, really difficult living in China, especially in Haikou, because the expat community was really small. And I found that a lot of people that were there were also escaping life, but they didn't want to work on themselves. They kind of wanted to just drown away their sorrows in alcohol or other substances. So I found it difficult connecting with people there, even though I did have a lot of friends and a good social circle.
And so other people weren't working on themselves. I'm assuming you were working on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is my goal about living overseas is to constantly learn about myself because I think my head is just such a weird place. And I always have to keep digging and digging and digging. And as human beings, we're always changing. So we always have to be analyzing ourselves.
And so during your time, in Haikou, like what were you learning about yourself at that time? I mean, this was your third country, your third big adventure. What were you gaining from it?
I think I kind of wanted deeper connections at that point because I was pretty self aware, but I wanted to surround myself with people that inspired me, people that motivated me, people that had interesting stories and that were strong and role models, basically. And I found that I was lacking that. So again, I was feeling emptiness.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like a lot of us who do live abroad for multiple years in different countries, I feel like we've all reached that point where you kind of feel a bit lonely, you really crave connection, you want like a group of friends. Because at this point, you had been abroad for like how many years now?
At that point, about 3, 4 years. And, I did have amazing people in my life, but they were all spread out throughout the world.
Yes, I go through that same problem as well.
So it's not that you don't have the supportive circle. It's just you're going through something. You leave somebody a voice message, an audio at 7 a.m., and you might not hear back from them till midnight. And you might need that advice or reinsurance right away. So it does get really, really difficult. It's not easy at all being an expat, I think, especially a woman in Asia. So you really, really have to rely, I think, on other women to be there for you and be supportive and create this sort of sisterhood.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like I'm so grateful for the friendships with these women that, I've had. But you ended up staying at Heiko for 2 years?
I extended it for another semester, just for 6 months, because I made a friend, Jenny. She's one of my best friends, and we both decided that a while to develop a deep connection from her part because she was also very guarded. So we felt like that we hadn't spent enough time together. And we both decided that, okay, if you stay for an extra semester, I will stay because we're here for each other and we support each other. So we both decided to extend for 6 more months because I also wanted a little bit more savings because I was going to be going to Australia. So I thought, why not more money, more savings? And, Australia is a really expensive country. It just kind of, it all made sense.
So at least, you had like a good friend like while you were there. Like you said, there's a point where you kind of reach of loneliness. So what would you say if someone were to ask you, like, why don't you just stay in one place?
Ah, that's a good question. I think I would feel trapped. I mean, right now I haven't found a place that completely feels like home. And once I find that place, of course, I'd be happy to stay. But right now I'm young. I don't have any kids. I don't have a house. Like, I don't have financial obligations or obligations to, little humans. So I think this is the perfect time for me to see as much of the world and live in as many different countries as possible.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, that's how I've been as well. I just, there is one place in the world that would be perfect, but if I could just live there legally, it'd be great. That's Barcelona, Spain, if anyone wants to know. But yeah, I completely understand. It's just kind of like you kind of outgrow your hometown and then you're just trying to figure out where in the world you truly feel at peace, with the people and like the atmosphere. So I get that. It can be hard. Yeah. So you decided to extend for another semester and then you moved to Australia. How was that?
Oh, it was like a fresh of breath. It was a relief. It was just like, oh my God, these people understand me. And, the culture I was obviously used to. It kind of felt like home when I got there at first. Everything was familiar. And to have Western food again, to have a good steak again, oh, I was in heaven. And Australians are just a good time. They're just so much fun.
They are, yes.
So I did a working holiday there. I mean, it's one of the few countries that I can see myself actually settling down. And that's another reason I really wanted to go there and work there for a year was to see, okay, would that be a potential country for me to settle down in the future?
So why didn't you decide to stay longer if you felt like you could actually like settle down?
Well, because I didn't want to settle down right then and there. I'm not ready yet, but maybe in the future, yeah, why not? I went on a working holiday visa, so I only had it 1 year. And unfortunately, my application to get a second year didn't work out, which is fine. Again, it's a blessing in disguise. And if I wanted to move to Australia, I do have a few friends with businesses there that have offered to sponsor me. So again, it'll be a very easy move, but just not ready yet.
Okay. So yeah, like you said, it was a blessing in disguise that you didn't stay like another year. Okay. So you're in Australia for a year and then you can't stay. So then what did you decide to do next?
I just decided to travel for a few months. I was in Sri Lanka for a month, just hanging out. And then I was trying to get a visa to go to India, actually. And I wanted to spend a few months there, just kind of, again, getting some sort of spiritual experience. I wanted to go north and just kind of hang out basically by myself. I was looking into these boat houses you can rent, and a person comes and delivers groceries every week to you, and you're just absolutely alone. So that was an appealing idea to me. Didn't work out. My visa got denied for a tourist visa because I'm born in Pakistan. So I can only go in an organized tour. So I decided to go to Pakistan and I stayed there for 3 months.
Oh, wow. So was that your first time being back in Pakistan since you moved? when you were younger?
No, it was my third time, but it was my first time going there and being like, hey, I am going to actually see the country. I'm going to travel within the country and I'm going to do it my way and not listen to my parents or my family and just kind of like basically do my own thing and not get sucked into the family politics and what society expects of me as a woman there. And that's why I ended up staying for so long. It was beautiful.
Like, what did you do? Did you discover anything about yourself when you were traveling around Pakistan on your own?
Yeah, I mean, you're always discovering something new. Like I said, we're always changing, so there's always things to discover. But I did realize that it's such a beautiful country. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. And I was born there and I had no desire to go back to Pakistan. And I don't know why I did it, and it ended up being such a emotional and spiritual journey. I dealt with a lot of my traumas as a child. I found out a lot more information about my childhood, talking to my cousins and aunts and uncles. So I did find out why I behave or act or have certain feelings, which was an interesting experience. It was very emotional.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you said you wanted to go to India and have like this spiritual alone experience, but in the end, it worked out for you to go to Pakistan. And I feel you kind of got that experience that you were like searching for, to really kind of dive deep into yourself.
Exactly, exactly. It was very therapeutic.
And so, what was your biggest takeaway from those 3 months in Pakistan? Like after learning more about your childhood and your family?
It was insight to who I am as a person. A lot of it is obviously influenced by our childhood, about our experiences. And that I learned was why I react to things the way I do, or my thoughts, feelings, what influences them. And I also learned how to deal with it a little bit better.
Hmm. It sounds like that was like a very important trip that you had to have. So I'm glad that you did get to experience that because I feel like not everyone gets to just like revisit their childhood and learn more about it and like learn how to deal with what happened to them. So that's amazing that you got to do that. So you learned more about yourself through this. So then where did you go after that?
After that, actually, I decided to move back to China. Because my experience first time was a little bit rough, I wanted to live in like a busier city. Like I've heard such great things about Shanghai and Guangzhou. So I decided to kind of experience it and see if I could just have basically my thoughts and feelings changed about China, which I went in with a very positive attitude.
And so, you moved back to China, for the second time. And how has that experience been so far up until the virus breakout?
It's been actually a lot of ups and downs, and that's expected with China. Definitely. I mean, in Guangzhou, I met such amazing people, and it was like the first time that I actually was friends with Chinese people. And I got an insight on their culture. And I also learned that the stereotypes that we do have about Chinese people, I guess, are not always 100%. And it was nice. It was nice to have these friends and make just such great connections with them. These women, I mean, I'm still friends with them even though I'm not living in Guangzhou. We talk almost every other day, which is great. But my work environment, I thought they were taking advantage of me. The pay was really, really good. But again, you just, with these pad jobs, you kind of just never know. And I decided to leave that job after a semester and move to Suzhou, which is next to Shanghai. And so far, it's been great. I mean, I work for a school that I absolutely adore. They're so respectful to the teachers. They're just really kind people. My co-teachers, the Chinese co-teachers, are always very, very happy, and they're a great help to me and the students. I have really good friends in the expat community as well. So it's been a very cool experience.
And I just kind of want to know, you said you befriended some Chinese people and you said you will learn that some of the stereotypes that people have aren't true. What stereotypes are you referring to?
Oh gosh, I'm going to go on record saying this. Okay, people usually don't have, I would say, a positive outlook when it comes to China or Chinese people. I mean, it's true, it's a very difficult country. The people can be very narrow minded or kind of closed off. But in Guangzhou, I found that it really depends on the province you're in and the city you're in, which was great. Like when I was in Haikou, people would ask me where I'm from, and I would say, "Oh, I'm from Canada," and they would say, "No, Africa." And I'm like, "No, I think I know where I'm from," just because I was dark. Just because I look Indian, they thought I was African. And in Guangzhou, I would say, "Oh yeah, I'm from Canada," and they would say, "Oh, that's cool. So where are your parents from?" Like it was like a normal conversation rather than just like closed off and no, just because it doesn't fit my idea, I'm not going to accept it. People were a lot more open minded and welcoming.
No, and I noticed that too because, I still do teach like online, and I feel like I do have some Chinese students who are very open minded, and, I just feel like are very well aware of how Western society is and everything. And it's, of course, like nice to see, like you said, it's not everyone, but yeah, it definitely depends, like you said, on the province, the people, the families. So you said, it's been ups and downs, but then you left China for a bit to go on holiday. And so obviously you're stuck on an island, you've been there for over a month. So what do you think is going to happen, or what are you hoping is to happen?
Okay, so our school basically told us that the start date would be March 2nd. We were supposed to start on February 9th, and then it got pushed back to February 17th, and now it's March 2nd. But my principal has told me not to buy tickets yet because it might be delayed even further. So basically, nobody knows what's going on, which is very typical of the Asian culture, especially in China. Everything is very last minute. Of course, I'm frustrated and irritated, but this is just the way it is. So we just have to get used to it.
Yeah, no, I remember it was kind of like that as well when in Vietnam, like things, were last minute or things would suddenly change, and you just have to roll with it, right? So I guess if you can't go back to China, I mean, what would be your plan B?
Well, all of my things are in China, so I think I should fly back and like pack up everything. I don't think the situations are going to get that bad that we wouldn't be able to fly back or return to work because it's a business, they want the business up and running. And they've paid a lot of money for our visas and obviously for our paychecks every month. So I do think things will return back to normal. I just don't know when. But worst comes to worst, just get a friend to pack up all my things, ship it over, and look for a new job. Maybe in Thailand. Who knows? I'm already here.
I mean, you're already there, might as well.
Yeah, start sending out my CVs to everyone.
Yeah. But I just kind of want to put this out there because you said if you were to go back anyways to China, what would happen?
Well, we do have to quarantine ourselves for 14 days, no matter when we go back. So that means that you are signed in onto a system on your phone, right? You're registered with the government and they basically track you. So they see what subway car you're taking, what cabs you're taking. We have DD, which is the Uber, which Uber you got into, because in case you're infected, they can track how many people you've come into contact with. But right now, people are not allowed to leave their house anyways. They're given a ticket in most complexes, compounds for apartments, and you can leave every 2 days to get groceries. A lot of that is being lifted as we speak, but people are encouraged not to leave. The restaurants are closed, no cinemas, people can't dine in. So they're just trying to contain the situation.
I can understand why you would not want to go back to that anytime soon. If you can avoid it, I mean, it's obviously very unfortunate, but obviously, the outbreak has gotten, pretty bad. And, it's like definitely spreading in more parts of the world. So I can understand that they want to contain it, but I just feel bad for the people that do live there. Because obviously it's not a great way to be living.
I think a lot of people are starting to go a little crazy. I do have foreign friends that are there right now, and the way that they're telling how they're living is just not very appealing for me to go back and, be stuck in my house for 14 days. That's a long time for anybody to just lose it.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be able to go get groceries, right? Because you have to be quarantined. So you wouldn't even get that 2-day privilege to go out.
Yeah, not for the 14 days. I mean, China is very good about their delivery service. Everything can be delivered to you. anything and everything can be delivered. I mean, if I needed to give something to a friend, I can just call up a service. A guy would come to my house, pick it up, and deliver it to my friend. But again, it's just the whole inconvenience of not being able to leave your house.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's definitely not ideal. But I just do want to say, you've been abroad for, at this point, how many years now?
About 6 years.
6 years. So do you feel like in those 6 years, you've really like learned more about yourself, like found yourself even more compared to how you were before you left Canada?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I had no idea what I wanted or who I was as a person. Now I'm pretty self aware, pretty decisive, and just my confidence has gone through the roof in terms of, being able to voice my opinion. Because I think a lot of the times we're told to be quiet and act like a lady and not be rude. And just because we're honest about our thoughts and feelings doesn't mean we're being rude. We're just having a conversation. And I think a lot of people mistake that. So I had to learn that it's okay to say what I want, feel what I want. I have the right to my own thoughts and feelings.
No, that's like very well said because I've definitely learned that too, that, I can voice my opinion and that's okay. And it doesn't need to be rude. It's just honesty. I think that's the most important. So I feel like from all this time abroad, through all the countries and adventures that you've had, what is the biggest thing that you've learned?
I would say just being yourself and not feeling sorry for it or not comparing myself to other people, my happiness to other people. Like, oh, but she's doing this or she looks like this or she has more friends. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous idea. We're always comparing ourselves to the Joneses and it's not fair to yourself. We're never going to be happy. I think our economy is driven on women's insecurities and making them feel like they are not enough physically or emotionally. And it's just economics, right? We feel bad, we buy things. It's great. Everybody wins. But I realized like not to give into that. I mean, of course, when I'm feeling sad, I do have like shopping therapy, don't get me wrong, but it's also, I've learned to deal with that and actually look deep down inside and see, okay, what is the real problem? What is the real issue?
Mhm. And do you feel like you would have been able to get to this point about yourself had you like not left?
Oh my God, definitely not. Big fat no. God, no. I would have been so busy trying to keep up with everybody else. And, just, I think I would have gone worse, to be honest with you.
No, I definitely, definitely get it. I feel like with putting yourself in really kind of like bizarre and out there situations, you have no choice but to just kind of look at yourself and be like, okay, what do I do? Who am I right now in this moment? I feel like there's no better therapy than to just kind of just go out there and do something on your own.
Yeah, because you kind of like go crazy at the start, like in these weird and bizarre situations, and you start acting like how you haven't before, start saying things, but that's your true self. Your true self is coming out, and you're like, no, no, I'm just being so awkward. And it's just like, no, you're just being true to who you are. Just go for it. Just be crazy. Who cares? As long as you're not hurting anybody else, just be completely mental and out of the box.
Yes, I love it. Be mental, be crazy, just do it all. But I'm just so glad that obviously you've been able to reach this point in your life, being so self aware and so confident. I feel like also it really helps so much, with aging itself as well, getting older and learning more about yourself. But I just do want to just wrap it up and I just want to ask if someone else wanted to move abroad or travel or just basically wanted to kind of live this crazy life, what is one piece of advice you would give them?
Oh gosh, I'd say go for it. Dive right in. Don't care about what other people think. Just you do you, basically. That's my advice for everything. You do you. I think a lot of the times, like people get scared and they use that energy to kind of like, I guess, control themselves and stay where they are. But I think they should use that energy to just fuel the decision that they want to make. Use your nervousness and use your fear as a fuel rather than something that's holding you back. And I would say, honestly, it's scary, but it's so much fun. Oh my God, it's so much fun. And it's not always going to be great, but that's the funny part about it. I mean, we were so miserable in Turkey, and now we look back at it and we just laugh. And it's just all of these negative experiences also going to create stories for yourselves, for your children, for your grandchildren. So it's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns, but it's definitely going to be a lot of fun.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you couldn't have said any better. It's scary, but it's fun at the same time. Thank you so much, Sehar. Like, you were amazing.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I really appreciate it.
Yes, of course. And I'll definitely have to have you come on again. I feel like there could definitely be many more talks.
Oh, for sure. Oh, you and I can talk.
Oh, yes, we definitely can. Thank you again.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. Thank you so much.
For more information on travel and life abroad, go to VentureEtte.com. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know by leaving a review. And be sure to follow me at VentureEtte on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Safe travels, and until next time.